In this video, I will explain two logical fallacies, the fallacy of composition and the fallacy of division. I'll begin with the general form of the fallacy, explain why it is a mistake, and use some examples of people making these mistakes. Hopefully, by the end of the video, you will be able to spot and deal with this fallacy. In English, the word composition refers to the makeup or ingredients of an object. A piece of music, for example, is composed of many musical notes. The notes are the ingredients that combine to form the whole piece of music. Misunderstanding the relationship between the whole and its composite parts is the basis of this fallacy. The general form is as follows. A is composed of B. A is the whole object and B is its composite parts. B has property C. The composite parts B have the property C. Therefore, A has property C. The whole object A must also have the property C. The conclusion here is fallacious. It assumes that whatever is true of B, the composite parts, this must also be true of A, the whole object. Now, it is possible that the property C is shared by both A and B, and if so, the conclusion would be correct. But this kind of conclusion does not necessarily follow, as there can be properties in B that are not present in A, and there can be properties in A that are not present in B. You may have heard the phrase that something is greater than the sum of its parts. For example, a sports team is greater than the individual skill of its players. Well, a property that exists in A, the whole object, but not in B, the composite parts, is called an emergent property. An emergent property would violate this kind of fallacious argument, and so works as a good counterexample. Let's have a look at two examples of people making this mistake. The first example concerns cosmology and goes like this. All life is part of the universe, so the universe is the whole object and the living things are its composite parts. Life is not eternal. There is a beginning and an end. For humans, we call this birth and death. Therefore, the universe is not eternal. This argument is fallacious because it assumes that the universe must possess a property simply because some of its constituent parts do. If we say that space and time are also part of this universe, and we also somehow show that these are eternal while life is not, would that make the universe eternal? Basically, if we want to determine if the universe is eternal or not, we need a better argument. We should look at the universe as a whole rather than its constituent parts. The second example concerns the supernatural. It goes like this. Society is made of humans. Society is the whole object, and individual humans are the composite parts. Bob is happy because he believes in ghosts. Bob is a single human who believes in ghosts, and this belief makes him happy. Therefore, society would be happy if we all believed in ghosts. Again, this argument is fallacious. Yes, Bob is part of society, and his belief may indeed make him happy, but there is no reason to suggest that every other human would also be happy if they too believed in ghosts. We know from TV and film, for example, that some people are scared of ghosts. Others may actually feel happy knowing that ghosts do not exist, and some people just don't care. So it is incorrect to say that society would be happy if we all believed in ghosts. The next fallacy in this video is the fallacy of division. Just as with the fallacy of composition, this fallacy concerns the relationship between the whole object and its composite parts. Only this time you make a conclusion about the composite parts from the whole. The general form is as follows. A is composed of B. This premise is the same as before. A has property C. The whole object A has the property C. Therefore, B has property C. The composite parts B must also have property C. The conclusion here is fallacious. The reason is similar to the previous fallacy. It assumes that whatever is true for A, the whole object, must also be true for B, the composite parts. But this assumption is not necessarily correct. Sure, there are examples where this assumption is correct, and so this kind of conclusion will be true. But the logic does not necessarily follow. There can be properties, objects, and composite parts for which this does not hold. Essentially, the fallacy of division ignores the differences between an object and its composite parts. Remember that an emergent property is one that exists in object A, but not in the composite parts B. Well, an emergent property is a good counterexample to this kind of fallacious argument too. Let's have a look at two examples of this fallacy. The first example concerns life. The argument goes like this. Humans are made up of atoms. Humans are alive. Therefore, atoms are alive. You cannot conclude that atoms are alive based solely on this composite relationship between humans and atoms. When a human dies, do its atoms also die? Or do they never die? Or maybe the atoms were never alive in the first place. This argument really comes down to the definition of the word alive. Seeing as it's used to describe humans, a biological definition would seem reasonable. However, if we use this same definition for the atom, then atoms are not alive. The last example concerns chemistry. The argument goes like this. Water consists of hydrogen and oxygen. Water is wet. Therefore, hydrogen and oxygen is wet. Again, this argument has made a mistake by assuming that the property of being wet must be shared by both the whole object and its constituent parts. It does not consider the nature of wetness, why something is wet or not. Wetness is a property that exists for water, but not for hydrogen and oxygen. It is an emergent property, and so this argument is fallacious. If you see these kinds of arguments, consider the following. How would the property apply to other composite parts? If it is talking about a group of people, would the other people also have this property? Is the property emergent? If so, it can only apply to the whole and not the constituent parts. Well, that concludes the video. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of these two fallacies. And if not, well, this channel is composed of various videos. People watching this channel love it, and therefore you should love this video too. So click the like button and subscribe to the channel.